you're getting closer to retirement and you want to be confident that you're prepared both financially and mentally for what's to come. In today's video, I'm going to give you a detailed picture of what to expect, the things to watch out for, and maybe more importantly, how to continue living a fulfilling life in retirement. A life without personal or financial struggles, so that we can make sure that you transition into retirement with confidence and peace of mind. Let's jump in with the things to watch out for. And the first one is the number one killer of joy. And that's really thinking about how you're going to spend your time. You know, there's 24 hours in a day, there's 168 hours a week, and there's almost 9,000 hours in a year. That's a lot of time. And while we're all looking forward to not having to do the commute anymore, not having to work 8, 10, 12 hours a day, that's still a lot of time. And so thinking through, how are you going to spend this time? What are you going to do to make your retired life as fulfilling? You know, as there's always negatives to every job, but as negative, along with the negatives of our job, many of us found a lot of personal satisfaction, and we had a purpose in life. We were part of a team. And so how are we going to replicate that in retirement? And if you find yourself wondering about that, I have a great suggestion for you. It's a book that was written by Arthur Brooks, and it's called From Strength to Strength. And it talks about, you know, how to maintain this sense of purpose outside of our jobs, because the reality is we are not what we do. We are not our jobs. We are our own people. And we each have a purpose, both at work, but then also outside of work. But it can trip up people, particularly men. So if you find yourself struggling with that, that's one thing to think about. The number two thing to be careful about is looking at your relationships, particularly if you have a significant other in your life, if you're married or you have a life partner. The reality is right now during the week, the two of you are probably spending 2 or at most 5 hours a day with each other. And the rest of the time you're living your own separate lives. And so talking through that ahead of time. What does retirement look like to you? What does retirement look like to your spouse, your partner? And how are you going to navigate that together? And then the third one to watch out for, and I see this a lot, is people not giving themselves permission to spend money early in retirement when they have the youth of their senior years, when they have their physical abilities, when they can go do the most things. And oftentimes it's just natural to be overly conservative with your money in the early years, but I would much rather somebody be more conservative with their money after the first 10 years of retirement than in the first 10 years of retirement. These are your go-go years, and go-go takes a little bit of gas, and gas is spelled M-O-N-E-Y. So give yourself permission to spend a little bit more money, or at least spend the money that you've budgeted. Okay, and if you're having troubles with that concept, there's a great book. This is the book by Bill Perkins. It's called Die with Zero, again by Bill Perkins. And you know, the reality is only 20 to 30% of us are gonna transition mentally smoothly. The rest of us are going to have some challenges. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't retire, because we all have to go through this transition at some point. So why not do it when we're younger, right? It's just natural. It's easy to put off retirement. And the 4 most dangerous words for a would have been retiree, for somebody that might have been able to retire early, is just 1 more year. And I've seen that over and over again. And sometimes there's good reasons to do that. But if there's not a good reason, if it's really not going to move the needle or make a difference financially, think about what 1 more year takes away from you. The sad truth is at 60 years old, most of us only have 1,000 weeks of healthy active time in front of us. And unfortunately, many of us are going to have less than that. In fact, the World Health Organization would caution us that the average American is going to have much less than those 1,000 weeks at age 60 of healthy active time. The World Health Organization says that the average American loses their health, has a serious health issue by the time they're 66.1 years old. That's just 13 months after when most of us are going to retire. So what's the cost of just one more year? What if we only have 5 good healthy years in retirement? We've now used the one of 5, 20% of those good healthy years. So that can be a very expensive trade-off. There are reasons why people do it that makes sense. If you need a little extra money to have a buffer or to be able to have the retirement that you want, it might make a lot of sense to work just one more year, but be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Okay, so that was what to watch out for. Next, let's talk about what to expect. And the reality is about 20 to 30% of people are going to transition smoothly into retirement, but the other 70 to 80% of us, it's going to be a little challenging. And there's 4 phases to retirement. Now, the people that transition smoothly, these 4 phases apply much less to them. They still take place, but the peaks aren't as high and the valleys aren't as low for them. But for most of us, we're going to feel the full brunt of all 4 of these phases. The first phase is the vacation feeling. And that can last a couple weeks. It can last a couple months. It can last 6 months. I've seen it last a year. But most of us at some point are going to say, okay, the vacation feeling is over and now I've got a lot of time on my hands. And so the vacation phase ends, and the next phase is this feeling of loss. And if you feel, I'm sharing these phases because if you feel these, I want you to know that it's normal. And the feeling of loss is, many of us, we've lost some of our best friends, some of our best friends that we spent a lot of time with. We may not have been as close to those people as other folks in our lives, but we certainly spent a lot of time with them. So we've lost some of our friends. We've lost that easy sense of purpose that a job gives to us. We've lost the common mission. We've lost being part of a team. And so while many of us, before we retire, are really looking forward to giving those things up, ironically, many of us are going to look back and feel a sense of loss over that. And then the next phase is iteration, where we're trying different things. We're trying to figure out what our next purpose is. And this can be frustrating for people. Sometimes we get lucky, and the very first thing we try, we're like, wow, this is my new thing. But for most of us, we're going to try 3, 4, a dozen different things before we find our new thing. And so one of the things I'd encourage you another book, there's a book called Hell Yeah or No by Derek Sivers. And Derek's book talks about, really being cautious to what we say yes to. Because when you first retire, a lot of people are they know you have a lot of time on your hands. And they're going to try to grab you and bring you into the organization. Maybe it's a not-for-profit, maybe it's coaching a sports team at the high school, maybe it's leading a Girl Scout group, whatever it is. It's natural for people to say, oh, Betsy or Bob has a lot more free time on their hands now. Let's grab them and see if we can get them to help out with our organization. And my caution to you, I would suggest that you be careful with that. And you don't just say yes to the first opportunity. So far, most of the things we've talked about have been the mental challenges to retiring, but we also want to know, we want to be confident that we have enough money to retire before we pull the trigger. We don't want to think we're going to be okay financially. We want to know that we're going to be okay financially. And earlier in our lives, we might be able to use something like the 4% rule to give us some guidance. Am I trending in the right direction? But before we tell our boss that we're going to retire, before we put down our resignation letter before we go out that door. That's really, it's a one-way door for many of us. Once we leave, it would be really hard to go back. So you want to have confidence that you have enough money to retire. And I do not think that the 4% rule is sufficient for that. Some people will build an Excel spreadsheet. I think that's fine, but for many, many people, you want to make sure you're thinking about all the right scenarios, right? That there's not an error in your Excel spreadsheet. So I recommend using professional software. And the software that I recommend is called Boldin, B-O-L-D-I-N, Boldin. And it's very robust software. It's much better than Excel, and it's extremely affordable. And it's about $10 a month as I record this. It's $120 a year. If you decide to use Boldin, I'd appreciate it if you use my link in the description below. This video isn't sponsored by Boldin, but that is an affiliate link. You won't pay anything extra, but you will be supporting the channel. So either get robust software, or for many people, even better, get with a financial advisor, somebody that has helped guide hundreds of people into retirement, somebody that's seen it before, has done it before, and brings not just the financial and the quantitative skills, but also the wisdom that comes with working with hundreds of families. And whichever route you go, one of the most important factors is what your expenses are going to be in retirement. And that's why I made this video up here. What is the average income for retirees in America? And in there, you'll get a sense of expenses. Essentially, the average income is what people are living on expenses. So I hope you enjoy that video, and thanks for watching this one.